September 2003, Monaco. In the Monte Carlo Star, a luxury apartment complex, a secret transaction takes place. A luxury apartment on the 4th floor, priced at $4 million, is bought by an offshore shell company called Brockville Development Limited, a very unassuming name. No one's ever heard of Brockville Development.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about.
But in a place like Monaco, the playground for the ultra-wealthy, nobody asks where the money is coming from. Brockville Development, listed in the British Virgin Islands, may be the official owner of the flat, and the company may have some people listed as directors. But until the Pandora papers were leaked, no one knew who was really behind the company, or who actually owns the flat. Someone has to, right? The owner remained a mystery for 18 years. That was until something called the Pandora papers were leaked. It revealed that the purchaser had been a 28-year-old Russian woman named
Svetlana Krivanogich.
Svetlana Krivanogich. Svetlana came from modest means, growing up in an apartment complex where her family shared a bathroom and kitchen with 4 others. In the late 90s, she worked as a cleaning lady in a store in St. Petersburg. But by 2003, she became the owner of a $4 million luxury apartment in one of the richest and most expensive countries in the world. And today, her real estate holdings are worth $14.5 million. She has a 3% stake in the Bank of Russia, is the owner of a ski resort in Sochi, and as the Pandora papers revealed, she has a net worth of $100 million. Don't you want to know what happened between the 90s and 2003 that turned a cleaning lady into a multi-millionaire? She got in bed with Vladimir Putin, both literally, figuratively, and for legal and health reasons, allegedly. Please don't put me on a hit list, Putin, I'm sorry. Starting in the late 90s, Svetlana was the not yet President Vladimir Putin's alleged mistress. By March 2003, she gave birth to a daughter. Oh my god. Yelizaveta Vladimirrovna Kliva. Okay, play the Google Translate recording.
Елизавета Владимировна Кривоногих.
Her father isn't listed on the birth certificate, and Putin has never admitted to knowing anything about either woman. But the name Vladimirovna is a name derived from her father's, which doesn't look good if you're Putin. And right after her birth was when Svetlana received the Monaco apartment, which also explains the massive wealth Svetlana has amassed since the birth of her daughter, all through this complex maze of offshore shell companies with nameless owners. And the only reason we know any of this is because of the Pandora papers. And we're giving away a brand new iPhone 13 for free. It's completely free and ridiculously easy to enter. All you have to do is watch to the end of this video to learn how. Sometime in 2020, nearly 3 terabytes of data was leaked to the press. 11.9 million records arrived from 14 different firms around the world that provide offshore services to the rich and powerful. The biggest leak of its kind in history. What it contains holds the power to change elections, uproot heads of states, and lock away some very powerful people.
This leak is really Panama Papers on steroids.
It exposed how some of the most famous people around the world hide their wealth both legally and illegally through a complex web of shell companies, trusts, and foundations. We're talking presidents, prime ministers, the king of Jordan, high-profile Russian clients close to Vladimir Putin, the suspected mistress of Vladimir Putin, rock stars, celebrities, and convicted criminals.
We're not looking at a couple of $1 million here, we're looking at trillions of dollars.
What preceded was the largest investigation in journalism history, dubbed the Pandora Papers, involving more than 600 journalists from 150 media outlets in 117 countries. An investigation that gives us a small sliver of light into a dark, shadowy financial system that only the world's most rich and powerful inhabit. These are the stories. Traditionally, getting access to the best investments and asset managers required you to be rich or famous. Like the people we're covering in this video, Wall Street has always ignored everyday investors, catering only to the ultra-wealthy. That divide didn't sit well for some very smart people. So they built Titan, a premier investment manager for the rest of us. And today's video sponsor. Titan already manages over $600 million for over 30,000 plus clients that are just like you. It's kind of like the advent of commission-free stock trading apps, but for hedge funds. You get an award-winning investment team in the palm of your hands. All you have to do is download the app, sign up, deposit just $100, and boom! You get access to award-winning investment strategies for US-based stocks, to international stocks, and even crypto assets. Titan's unique time-tested strategy of identifying a rare species of stocks known as compounders and holding on tight has allowed them to outperform all the major indices and robo-advisors since their inception. The firm offers zero performance fees, no lockouts, a flat-rate advisory fee, and record-breaking returns. It's not an ETF or mutual fund, and they don't just expertly invest your money. They explain everything by giving you course-size seats with real-time video updates. All it takes is $100 to get you started on your journey towards smart investing with a company that already manages over $600 million for over 30,000 clients. Get started today at titan.com/Jake and get your first 3 months of expert investment management for 0 fees. That's titan.com/Jake for 3 months free.
Jordan, aka You Know Who.
Jordan is a small Middle Eastern country bordered by Iraq, Syria, Israel, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia. Because of its location between some of the most peaceful countries in the area, Jordan is super important to the US and Europe.
And they all want the same thing.
Unlike its neighbors, Jordan and its King Abdullah II are allies that help advance the US's military and economic interests in the region. In exchange, the US provides aid for millions of Jordanian citizens and refugees who live in the country, mostly in poverty. Jordan has very little fertile land, no oil of its own, and is the second most water-scarce country in the world. With only a few resources and a government where tribalism and corruption are the norm, it's not surprising that people started getting very angry at the system. In the 2011 Arab Spring, Jordanian protesters took to the streets asking for change. They gave King Abdullah the nickname Ali Baba, like the character in the 1001 Nights that stole from the treasure cave and lived in riches his whole life. Faced with massive opposition and calls for an end to corruption, the king met some of their demands, and they quieted down. Then just a few years later, the protests started again. And just like every politician in the world, authorities vowed to root out corruption again and promised to track down every last cent of hidden money leaving the country. Honesty would be the country's new motto, and the king even awarded a prize for transparency in his own name. No one was exempt from the scrutiny and questioning. No one could hide from the law. No one except the king himself. Between 2003 and 2017, an anonymous investor referred to only as You Know Who by the wealth management firms that helped him purchased more than $100 million worth of real estate in the US and UK. This included a house in one of England's most expensive towns, luxury apartments in London and Washington, D.C., and 3 beach houses in Malibu, California. The official owner, a company called Nabisco Holdings. The real owner, none other than the King of Jordan himself. It turns out the poster child for anti-corruption and transparency had been secretly smuggling his money out of the country for years, tax-free to buy luxury real estate all over the Northern Hemisphere. All the while, his subjects relied on millions of dollars in foreign aid to subsidize their fuel, food, and essential needs.
And the United States has been beyond the call of duty and its support to us. And I just wanted to mention again in front of you how grateful I am and the people of Jordan for that outstanding support.
In a response to the Pandora Papers release, the king's attorneys had insisted that he had done nothing wrong, and that as the king he didn't have to pay any tax according to the law. That may be true, but in a country where most of the people rely on $1.5 billion in foreign charity, mostly from the US to survive, finding out that your king has secretly bought luxury property with money that could have been used to uplift the people could potentially lead that monarch to the guillotine, figuratively and literally. And that's not the only issue the king may be facing after the release of the Pandora Papers. Anil Shalin, a Middle Eastern scholar, commented, if the Jordanian monarch were to display his wealth more publicly, it wouldn't only antagonize his people, it would piss off Western donors who have given him money.
The President of Kenya, aka Client 13,173.
Kenya is a country with a rough past and an equally impoverished present. After being ruled by colonial powers, a man named Jomo Kenyatta, or Burning Spear, led a revolution against the colonial government and became post-colonial Africa's most influential, iconic leader. After liberating Kenya from the oppression of colonialism, he vowed to give freedom and prosperity to every Kenyan. A noble message that was a complete lie. Instead of uplifting the people, he kept a chokehold on the country, turning it into a one-party state, detaining and torturing his opponents. Instead of giving back the land the colonial powers controlled, he bought 1/6 of the land for himself for almost nothing. For most Kenyans, it seemed like they just traded one devil for another, from living under the rule of the white man to being crushed by one of their own. When Jomo Kenyatta eventually died, he was replaced by a guy named Daniel Moi. And again, instead of improving life in Kenya, Moi made the government even more authoritarian and stole $2 billion over the course of his time in office. That's where our guy Uhuru Kenyatta comes in, the son of Jomo Kenyatta. Uhuru saw how sick everyone was with all the corruption, so naturally he ran for office under the banner of being an anti-corruption activist. He made it clear at every rally that destroying corruption was his only goal in life. And it worked. In 2013, he became the president of Kenya. He promised food, water, and electricity for all. He even vowed to give up 20% of his salary as president, for the people, you know? He would be the spear that destroyed corruption, stealing, and lying. Except he did none of that. And to his Panamanian law firm Alcago, he became known only as Client 13173. Client 13173 is the owner of various shell companies all over the world, used to accumulate millions upon millions upon millions of hidden wealth for decades.
What we own, what we have, is open to the public.
Today, 73% of workers in Kenya earn less than $450 a month, while the president of Kenya and his family are worth more than $500 million. And don't forget that we have the iPhone giveaway at the end of the video.
Pakistan's Prime Minister.
He's a Pakistani cricket legend, a celebrity, a national hero, an anti-corruption trailblazer, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Imran Khan was famous long before he became Prime Minister, a cricketer for the national team.
Harvey and Sir Donald Brett. His volume. What a beautiful delivery that from Imran Khan.
He had people shouting his name for years before he decided to run for office. Like our friend in Kenya, Khan knew the average Pakistani hated corruption and wanted to see real change in the government. But Khan quickly realized that in order to win, he would need to start making some bold claims and really rally the people behind him. So he turned to a classic, yet another political campaign based on the promise to destroy corruption in all its forms. His household name meant he got all the best sponsors, and his likability meant that everyone believed him when he vowed he would build a new Pakistan, a Pakistan for the people. Even his party name was the Pakistan Movement for Justice. His campaigns did well, and people seemed to love the idea of having a celebrity as their prime minister. But something was still missing. He needed that final boost to shift the votes in his favor. And it came in the form of the Panama Papers, a similar leak that happened in 2016, not to be confused with the recent Pandora Papers. The Panama Papers revealed that the sitting prime minister had massive offshore accounts, and that his daughter was the secret owner of several luxury apartments in London. The public was outraged. Their prime minister was just as bad as the rest. And of course, Khan saw his chance. He led protests all over the country demanding the prime minister step down. He got the support of the military and the people, and it was only a matter of time before he found himself elected as prime minister of Pakistan in 2018. Everyone who supported him waited in excitement for the overturning of the government, for the establishment of a new Pakistan, but it never happened. Instead, most analysts came to realize, quote, he doesn't have a problem with the military ruling the country while they pretended that he was in charge, end quote. All those promises to destroy corruption, they seem to have been forgotten. Khan simply maintained the status quo while preaching every now and then that he was busy reforming the government and was doing what's best for the people. And in an ironic twist of fate, it was now his turn to be exposed by a giant financial leak, the Pandora Papers. Turns out Khan is surrounded by donors, ministers, and officials, some of whom he appointed, who all have money hidden away from public view. The Minister of Water Resources, for example, has been accused of everything from bribery to corruption to attempted murder. He even tried to use Asia City, a secrecy firm, to invest $5.6 million he got from an alleged loan scandal in a trust. The finance minister of Pakistan owns one offshore company, and his family members own another 3. They were registered in the Seychelles to hold investments, but of course that can mean pretty much anything they want it to mean. So it looks like the prime minister of Pakistan is gonna have a rough re-election.
Sri Lankan blood money.
It's the middle of a bloody civil war. On both sides, people are being killed and tortured. Your country is in chaos, the government is turning on itself. Your people are being massacred. But you look on the bright side. All this violence makes for the perfect cover to funnel your millions in corruption money out of the country to buy luxury real estate and art. After all, who's gonna notice a few $1 million being funneled out of the country during a war? Sounds pretty brutal, right? But for this woman and her husband, whose names I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, A bloody civil war in Sri Lanka was their perfect opportunity to set up offshore shell companies to hide their millions earned from advising foreign companies on how to do business with the Sri Lankan government. That means taking bribes in exchange for granting access to the economy. By 2009, the Nirupama family already controlled up to 70% of the national budget. And from 2010 to 2015, she served as Deputy Minister of Water Supply and Drainage. And according to the Pandora papers, the money Nirupama and her husband hid offshore came from consulting gigs, advisory services, and of course, corruption. They used this hidden money to buy luxury properties in London and Sydney, and to buy at least 31 pieces of art stored at the Geneva Freeport to avoid taxes. We have a great video on how to avoid taxes with fine art that you can watch after finishing this video. Even after her husband was charged with embezzlement in 2016, Asia City, the financial services company they used, still kept them on as clients, managing their assets worth at least $18 million. And all this offshore luxury real estate and art was made during one of the most violent periods in Sri Lankan history. I am not talking about all these world leaders to become the newest celebrity gossip channel. In fact, if you have enough money to hide from the government legally, I would recommend it. I just wanted to show you guys the power of buying secrecy. A power that is being slowly eroded away thanks to information technology. These are just the first few stories. The ICIJ who coordinated this investigation is dripping out more and more information almost every day, so subscribe if you want to learn more. iPhone 13 giveaway. To enter to win an iPhone 13, shipping included, you can choose whatever color you want. All you gotta do is subscribe to the channel, so click that red subscribe button below. And pro tip, you should probably make sure that your subscriptions are made public so that we can actually see that you're subscribed to the channel. And you should also probably make sure that you have an email listed on your account so that if we choose your account, we can actually email you and contact you. So yeah, subscribe with the red button below and you're good. If you enjoyed this video, our friends over at Slidebean, who make amazing videos, like how do the tax havens that the people in this video use, how do they actually work, they made a video on it, which I will link below, that you guys should check out. If you want to see more of me, for some reason, you can follow me on Instagram at jakechwin.io. Thank you so much for being part of the Watch to the End Club. That's going to wrap it up. Stay dangerous out there, and I will see you guys in the next one.